Groudon will be replacing Rayquaza in Pokemon Unite, and it's about to completely change everything. Hello everyone, this is the Viz and you're back with another video, and yes, I am not joking, Groudon is going to be replacing Rayquaza. This is probably the craziest piece of news we've heard in Pokemon Unite in a very long time. There are other pieces of news too, one being that more Mega Evolutions are coming to the game, which is a bit scary given what Mega Mewtwo X and Y did to Pokemon Unite in terms of balance, and there's also going to be more Pokemon added frequently. If you want to see the full producer letter, I'll link it in the comment section or something, or in the description I guess. But the biggest change is the fact that Groudon is going to be releasing in Pokemon Unite and replacing Rayquaza. This is huge, because there's going to be differences in the way that Groudon acts in comparison to Rayquaza. Now, there are a lot of similarities, but there are some key differences. We'll go through them here. The biggest difference being the fact that if you KO an opponent that has this effect, the Groudon effect, I guess we're going to be calling it for now, this effect will now transfer to your Pokemon. So yes, if the opposing team secures Groudon, you can KO an opponent on that team, and now you will have the Groudon effect. Now, what is the Groudon effect? Well, the Groudon effect is going to be when your team secures Groudon, you're going to have an increase in your attack power and an increase in your goal scoring speed. It's going to be greatly increasing this. We don't know the exact numbers, the exact levels. We can try and compare it to Rayquaza in terms of the Rayquaza shield, but we don't know the exact details yet. But like I said, we can try and compare it to Rayquaza, and for Rayquaza, one of the biggest things, or not the biggest things, I guess the first thing, the user who secures Rayquaza will gain 30 Eos energy while the rest of the team gains 15 Eos energy. This was also the same case with Zapdos, so this will likely stay the same with Groudon. But with Rayquaza, one of the biggest things was the Rayquaza shield. The shield was what allowed Pokemon to have an increase in their goal scoring speed, a quadrupling of their goal scoring speed, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, but the Rayquaza shield also did increase damage. This was something that the Ray shield actually did all of this time. It increased specifically auto attacks as well as move 1. For some reason it never increased the damage of move 2. Don't know why they did this, but this was what was present. Now with Groudon, we obviously don't know any specifics. We don't have any percentages, we don't have any numbers, but what we do know is that the devs didn't say anything about a shield. There is no mention of a shield anywhere in this description. In fact, the only thing they said was that their attack power and the goal scoring speed will be greatly increased. Now, this leaves a lot of questions. We don't know if the goal scoring speed is going to be comparable to Rayquaza. It might be higher, it might be lower. We don't know if attack power is going to include both moveset 1 and moveset 2, or if it's going to even include auto attacks, or if it's just going to include auto attacks. There are a lot of questions here, but what we do know is that if you KO an opponent that has this effect, it's going to transfer to another Pokemon. This changes everything. The game is no longer now decided by who secures the final objective, which it never was fully decided on that, but I would say around 70, at least 80% of the games where a team secures Rayquaza, that team ended up winning the game. I would say in most cases that's the case, but now that's not necessarily the case, because the team that secures Groudon doesn't necessarily win, but the team that keeps the Groudon effects is likely going to be the one who wins. The fact that we don't know damage numbers or how much things are going to be increased in terms of the attack power it doesn't worry me, but that is something important to keep in mind, because if a team has increased damage, of course it's going to be easier for them to keep that Groudon effect. We don't know how long this is going to last either. The producer letter says that this is going to allow all players to enjoy a heated battle until the time runs out, but it doesn't mean that the Groudon effect is actually going to last the entire time. The only thing we can really compare this to at this point is the Regis, like the bottom Regis, because the Regis do give a buff duration, but those last 90 seconds. So will the Groudon buff last only 90 seconds? Does it disappear? Does it last till the game is over? These are all questions we don't have the answer to. They're all very important questions because they could completely change the way we experience things. I personally would think that this would last the final 2 minutes, like the full 2-minute duration. But it could potentially be 90 seconds. It could just last, we don't know how long it will last. But this is going to be interesting because now the way you approach team fights is potentially different, especially at Rayquaza. Obviously, I think it's most likely better to secure Groudon because once you have the buff, you'll be able to deal more damage, you can probably KO opponents faster. In general, it's better to get the Groudon buff early. But if you're able to steal it from opponents, that's also fantastic because then you can push with your team. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's going to come out of this. You're going to have to work more with your teammates. This has always been a team-based game. Pokemon Unite is a team-based game. But at this point, if you're able to steal buffs from opponents, then you can go to their side. You can steal a Groudon buff, you can go to their side, start scoring. You can push with your team, the opponents can be pushing with their team. It's going to be such a different game and a different mentality when it comes to playing this game. People are going to have to fill their roles better. Defenders will have to defend goals better potentially, or defend their teammates, trying to keep their not Rayquaza, it's going to take a while to get that, keep their Groudon buffs active, because you don't want to lose them. If you do lose them, then the opponents will get it, and the opponents can just start shredding through your team in terms of their increased damage, and then they can run and score. The possibilities are endless, and I am so excited to finally have something new in this game. I think everyone's excited about that. They also said there's going to be new placement of tall grass and stuff, which is cool. I mean, obviously I think a new map would have been very, very exciting, but this is at least something. And it's going to completely make the final fight so much more dynamic, so much more rewarding, at least I hope so. It really, of course, depends on the damage numbers and the goal scoring speed, and if there are any other effects that haven't been mentioned yet, because there could be something else that they haven't mentioned. But yeah, this is huge. I am so excited, and I can't wait for the future of Pokemon Unite, so hopefully you all enjoy this, and I will be there in the next video. Cheers.